Alright, so this is going to be the coding part of this game. So what I'm going to do right off the bat is I'm going to take this background and I need it to spin. Okay. Now I could animate it and do it that way, but it's actually easier to do it with code, believe it or not. So with this selected, I want you to rename the instance name to track. Alright, so before it should be empty, right? Just call it track. Okay. Or some name. It's going to need an instance name for this to work. And I'm going to go to code snippets, and I want to go to the action script animation, and you want to rotate continuously. Just double click on that, and that will go ahead and add this bit of code here. We'll go like that. And what it's going to do is it's going to rotate it over time. So if I'm just going to rename this so that we know what it is. I'm just going to call it rotate track. Okay, and that way, you know, it's descriptive of what it actually does. Not like that. Track. Okay, and if I hit Control Enter to test, or Command Enter if you're using a Mac, you can see it moves it. Now it's moving it like 10 degrees for like every frame. Okay, because it's on Enter frame and it's going to rotate. That doesn't really work for me. So let's try 1 for the speed instead. And then I think you're going to find that 1's a little bit better. That's a little more appropriate. Yay! So that works. That's basically all we need as far as the track's concerned. So that works for me. I'm just going to enter that a bunch of times to get it out of there, because we're not really going to mess with that too much. The next thing to do is to be able to move the character. And this is actually going to be relatively complicated. So select your character, and then you need to, again, it probably has nothing in there. So you'll see it says instance name. Just go ahead and just make it player. All right. And we're going to select that. And I'm just going to go ahead and use, again, underneath the animation here, we're going to do move, not move horizontally, move with keyboard arrows. So just double click on that. And that will automatically create this bit of code. And again, if I test this, you'll see it's already sort of working. All right. So I can now use the arrow keys, and you can see I can move around and stuff. So that's kind of cool. But it's very linear. It moves at like 1 consistent speed. It's not very fluid. It doesn't really work. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to adjust that a little bit. So I'm going to get rid of this extra little bit up here, and I'm going to add some custom variables. Oops, this added afterwards. I'm going to take this track, and I'm just going to cut that and put this at the top, and put the track at the bottom. Control V. Okay, just because I don't really need it too much. We're going to be doing most of our stuff in here. So I'm going to add a couple of variables up top here. So we're going to do a variable for speed, okay, and that will be a number, and I'm going to set it initially equal to 0. And the idea here is that obviously when my speed it's going to be the variable that holds how fast it's going. Right? I mean, that's what you would think speed would be. And so what we'll do is we'll add to that in order for it to move faster, right? So like right now, it would be the same as the track rotation is moving at 1. Well, that's a hard-coded single number. If instead I made it like track speed, which I might eventually, I can change that number dynamically whenever I want, right? So now it only moves at this 1 consistent speed. I'm going to take this, and then I can change this number through code, so that's the how much it moves. Now, I'm going to have that using a speed multiplier. And that will also be a number. Okay. And I will set that equal to 3. Now, what this is going to do is, this is basically how fast it will accelerate. So this will add on to my speed to make it go faster. So when I start pushing the up arrow, it's going to add 3. And then it's going to add 3 and 3 and 3 and 3 and 3. And that's going to make it go faster and faster and faster. Based off of this number. Okay, so if this is low, if this is just 1, it's going to take longer for it to pick up speed. All right, and then the next thing I need is the what are you called? The max speed. So I'm going to do another variable, and we'll call it speed max. Okay, and that again will be another number. And this is, I mean, you're going to have to play around with this number. You'll have to play around with both of these to get the feel of what you want. But I tried 20 before. Basically, this is speed can have this multiplier added on top of it over and over and over again. But eventually, eventually it will it'll only get up to 20. I'm gonna have this say if you get up to 20, you're not allowed to move up anymore. So this is the total speed that can go. Can't go any faster than that because otherwise your character might get like crazy. So the idea here is we're gonna have this object, this player, okay. He's not going to, like in the other games, like when I did the endless runner, he goes side to side, like he can move side to side, and he can move. He doesn't move up and down. This one, he can't move side to side. I'm going to only allow him to move forward. But what you'll do is you'll turn to go this direction, then he'll turn to go that direction. So he only goes forward. So they're only, and he can also go backwards, but not as fast. So I mostly just need to control it in the up press button. So that will be the what he needs to do. All right. Good. All right. So if up pressed, we're going to say speed is going to be plus equals the speed multiplier. Okay. And so what that means, speed multiplier. I think I spelled that right. What that means is that speed plus equals means it's going to be speed is equal to whatever speed was plus this amount. Okay. So it's going to add this on top of it. So as I push the key, it'll make it go faster. So just to give you an idea of how this works, I'll put speed on player Y here. And so you remember how fast it was before, right? So watch this. So once I push up, you're going to see he goes up pretty fast. See how slow he's going down? Right, now watch. Let me see how fast he goes? Because it's adding it on top of each other. Now right now, there's nothing to stop him from going super fast. So what I'm going to do is right after this, we're going to do an if, and we're going to say if speed, oops, not there, sorry. After this part. If speed is greater than speed max, oops, max, okay. So right now it's 20. So we're going to say if speed, if I'm pushing on the arrow and it adds 3, if it goes higher than this, I'm going to tell it to, let's go like this. I'm going to tell it to make speed equal to speed max. So it will never let it go faster than that speed. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is on the reverse here, we're going to do something a little bit different. Actually, you know what? We'll just have it stay at speed. Because if you're going backwards on a motorcycle, you don't really go much faster. So we'll say that's fine. Now, what I'm going to do instead, though, is right now I have player, and then I just put speed there. And that would kind of work. But the problem that I'm having is that I want to be able to turn and have it go forward. So we're going to have to make another function that will calculate some of that stuff for us. Okay, so instead of having this bit of code here where it says player.y speed, I'm going to handle that in another program. So we're going to just not another program, in another bit of code here. So after that, I'm going to go ahead and we are going to make a new function, and I will call this function player move. All right, and like that. Okay. So what that's going to do is it's going to call the this function called player move, which I don't currently have yet. Okay. So I'm just going to put it right in between these two because these are where most of our actions are going to happen. So I'm just going to make a new function, and it's just going to be called this player move. So it's going to be function player move. Okay, like that. Function player move. Let's see. All right. Now, basically, there's going to be a whole bunch of math here that is probably not going to mean too much to you. But what I need to do is this. I want to be able to calculate the direction that this is going, and then what direction it needs to move, like what vector it's going to happen in. Okay, so what we're going to do is, this is kind of a common thing. I'm going to go up here, and we're going to add a couple of variables. Okay, so we're going to do a variable for we'll call it x velocity. Okay, so the x direction, and that will be of the type number. And we're going to do, we'll set that initially, okay. We're going to set that equal to, this is going to be kind of a weird thing, it's going to be math.cosine radians times speed. Okay? Yeah. Math.cosine. Alright. Yeah. And then we're going to do another one, variable. It's going to be y velocity. It's going to be another number. We're going to do kind of the same thing. It's going to be math dot, this time it's sine. Okay. And it's also going to be radians times speed. Alright. Okay. So I think that's what we need to start with. Okay, so radians we're going to calculate another thing. I'll show you that in a second. So let's go back down to here. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do x velocity. We're going to set that equal to math.cosine. And then it's going to be degrees to radians. Did I spell that right? It's not degrees. Degrees to radians. And that's going to be car dot rotation. Okay. Times speed. And we're going to do kind of the same thing again, but with this one. Velocity is going to be equal to math.sine and degrees to radians car dot rotation times speed. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say that the car dot x is going to be plus equals to x velocity times direction. Okay, so another thing I'm going to need is actually I'm going to have to tell it which direction it's going in. So the reason why that's necessary is it's going to whether I'm going forward or backwards is going to make a difference. You know what though? For now, let's go ahead and we will leave that alone. Actually, just do is going to be equal to velocity, and then I'll show you that after. So we'll do x velocity, semicolon, and then car. Oh, it's not car anyway. Sorry, it should be player dot y. Dot y is going to be plus equals y velocity, like that. All right. Now, so this degrees to radians is actually going to be a custom function that I'm going to use in order to basically decipher that math. So function degrees to radians, and it's going to accept degrees, which are going to be of the type number. All right, and it's going to return a number like that, and return degrees times math.pi divided by 180. Okay. So we just wrote a bunch of code, and honestly, I'm not really 100% sure how it all works. I went around looking for a bunch of different codes, and this is basically the one I thought that worked pretty well. But the idea here is that the longer we hold up, or we press the up button, right, when up is calculated. So if you go down here, you can see that what we did is it made these two functions, or it made three functions, right? It did this function. Well, I'll skip that. You probably know anyway. The longer we hold the up button, the up arrow key, what it's going to do is it's going to take the speed and it's going to add this multiplier, right? And then if the speed's the same or higher than the max speed, it's just going to make it that speed. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to call player move, right? Now in this, I have to find the x velocity and the y velocity. And the idea here is that I want that it to move in certain directions. So it's not just moving straight up or straight to the left or right. It can move in a diagonal path based on the angle of my character. And that's basically what this math is doing here. So let's go ahead and control enter, and I will be surprised. Ah, there we go. See, I knew that. See, I'd be surprised if there wasn't an error. So line 44, and it says I'm missing a semicolon somewhere. Okay. Column 56, syntax error right before right. Move. Let me see. I don't see. Oh, right there. I see it. I missed parentheses right here. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, undefined property car. Oh, jeez, I keep writing car. Sorry. Player. When I did this before and I made a car instead. So player rotation. Let's see. Okay. Radians. So I need to have a variable called radians. Alright, yeah. So I didn't do that either. So up here, you need to make a variable, and it's going to be called radians, and it's going to be of the type number, and we're going to set it equal to degrees to radians, which was that function we made earlier, and we're going to send it the angle, which I will. Okay, so we also need to have an angle variable as well. So let's go ahead and we will set the variable for angle up here, variable angle, and that's going to be a number. So that's just going to store what our angle is, and I'm just going to set it initially to 45. Okay, and let's see, that should be okay. Let's see what happens. And it's okay. Okay, it's a little hard to tell. Okay, so this is why it's not working. So if you look, I did nothing to tell this to turn. It is actually working correctly. It's always moving in that direction. But I need to fix that real quick. So what I'm going to do is down here, you can see on left press, we have it moving left and right, which I don't actually want to be able to do. So what I got to do is over here, I got to change this from player .x to player rotation, so that when I'm pushing the left key, I want it to rotate, and I want it to rotate a certain amount, so minus, yeah. So I can hard code and just put a number here, but instead I'm going to go up here and I'm going to make another variable, and actually I'm going to put it underneath here because this is actually something you would want to control. And we're going to just call it rotation rate, and that will be a just going to do another number, and I'm going to set it initially equal to 10. Okay, so that's how fast it can rotate. So I'm just going to go ahead and say rotation rate. It'll use that value. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing here. So instead of it moving, it's just going to rotate. Rotation. It's going to be plus equals, and it's going to be rotation rate. Now if I do this, you'll see it turn. Now he's going to drive sideways, but at least you'll get an idea. So you can kind of see. Alright. See how that works. So it's sort of working. It's kind of weird because he's pivoting from his top there, so we got to fix that. But that's the general idea of it. Okay. So that's working pretty good. So I think what I need to do is this. If you look, when I made this symbol, modify, well, I'll just double click on it so you can see it. If you look, you can see, I believe he's pivoting from the bottom, right? Let me just double check. Yeah. Okay. So whenever you make a symbol, if I go modify, convert to symbol, if you look, I have it right now on this bottom. So it's going to pivot from the bottom because that's where the registration is. Okay. It doesn't use this that we use when we're making our artwork and stuff. It actually uses, so you can't see it because it's, what if I get, well, it's actually using a point that's down here. But what I can do is to fix this, I'm going to double click on the whole thing. I'm going to grab both elements. Actually, if I click off, see that little thing? That's where it's pivoting from. That's its registration point. So I'm going to grab both of these elements, and they're just, yeah, I'm going to grab both of these guys, and I'm just going to move them down right about, that's about center, and then I'll back this thing up. And now you'll see that he's going to rotate from that position. See, now he's spinning in the right way. But I do have an issue where, well, I have a couple issues. Where obviously he's driving from the side, which I don't want. So I'm going to go back to my code. So one, I don't need to go back to code, actually, now I think about it. The problem is that he's facing this way, and it's always going to want to go that way. So what I got to do is, again, I'm going to go in here. I'm just going to take this and this. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees this way, so he's facing that way. And back up. Then I'm going to take this, and I'm going to rotate it. Ah, crap. Let's see what pivots over here. Get over here. And I'm going to rotate this back. There we go. And hopefully I think that will do it. Let's double check. And wait. Oh, there it goes. Yep, now it works. Okay. The reason why is this, is that the way that the code's set up, without trying to make like an offset thing, is that it's looking towards this being the forward position. So what I did is I just took my guy, I rotate him in that direction, and then by manually doing it on the thing over here, you can see that my, where's the rotation, position scale, where are you? I can't seem to find it. But the rotation will now be, will now be correct. Is this it? Oh no, that's moving, that's depth. But now his rotation is off, and then I rotate it over, so that will fix it too. Okay, so if yours is off, you just got to go in the layer underneath and rotate it oppositely. Okay, so that's working, and that's working. A couple of things that I want to fix. For one, you may have noticed this or not. When I'm pushing forward, it goes up like that, right? And I can go back. If I push forward, it goes up. It's keeping that max speed. So every time I go, it's just holding that speed. Or maybe it's not. I thought it was. Alright, well. No, yeah, it looks like it is. So what I want to do is reset that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take speed, and you see this is on up press. I'm going to go down to where we do keyboard up pressed. So up press is true. Where does up press is false, and I'm going to go ahead and take speed and set it equal to 0. And that should reset it, I believe. So even if I drive for a while here and I get the speed up, you should see it'll still start at this lower speed here. See, it still has to pick up speed. So that will reset it to 0 every time by putting it in the unset key. So whenever I let go, it sets speed back to 0. Okay. So that should be good. Alright. So now what I want to do, oh, geez, we're up. Okay, I'm going to stop the video here and I'll do the next one.